Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Art Collector George,
and Harrison, the Adept Historical.
We are covering Before They Are Hanged, the second book in the original trilogy. For this episode, we'll be covering Jewel of Cities and Luck. So let's get started. Everybody, thank you again for all your support. Apparently, according to the Arch Lector, last week was one of our best weeks we've ever had, or this month.
January in general is the most listens we've had, well, since the first month we started. So it's been fantastic. And we've had more people than ever starting from the beginning. So, you know, in 32 weeks when you've caught up with this, then thank you.
That's crazy, guys. 32 weeks. That's nuts.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. It's a couple more months and it's been a year. Wow, look at that. Yeah. So, all right, thank you all again. And again, we just want to remind you, if you could follow us on social media and our YouTube page, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, the second part of the Great Northern War series is out now. I know it took me a couple months, but I think it's even better than the first one. So go check that out.
Good job, Harrison. Good job.
Just ignore the fact you spelled Ostenholm wrong.
What the hell? George,
I mean,
everyone
I'll cut that bit out. I'll cut that bit out.
You fucking cut.
No, I won't.
The Adeptus Historical keeps making errors there, huh?
Well, maybe if the Arch Lector read it right the first time, he would have caught me on the first video.
Said you can't read, George.
I have no reply to that.
He said you
no
got
rebuttal.
He said you got that chimney sweep education.
Fucking Liverpool.
Fucking chimney sweep. Fuck you.
Oh, sorry about that. Well, I mean, since you're the Arch Lector, why don't you take us into our next segment, which is, best meme of the week.
Yeah, so we've got user tallyho87 on Reddit, and it's I don't know who the picture is of, but it's just a very, very awkward face, and it's West's face when Polder says he's well and truly avenged Prince Ladislaw, and he's just like, yeah. You could say he grimaces.
He grimaces.
So yeah, thank you very much, tallyho87, for making me grimace.
Thank you. Thank you for that, George. Let's move on to our first chapter read through, which is Jewel of Cities. Who wants to take this one away?
So Jewel of Cities, they started off with the gang, the Mystery Machine crew. I forgot what they're called. They don't really have a name, do they? It's not like the Fellowship of the Ring or anything like that. It's just
the Dirty Dozen.
The Dirty Dozen, and it's less than a dozen because it's the big deal.
That's how it works in the North. The dozen doesn't really mean a dozen.
Yeah. So they've arrived in Alcus, and it's not exactly as nice as it used to be by the time they were getting. It's just, but Baez is just extolling about like how wonderful it used to be. Oh, there was 20 miles of proud oaks lined the road, and they're just like, really?
Well, it is kind of cool though. He says that Juvens planted them himself. So he planted all these perfect oaks that lasted throughout the entirety of from when he planted them up until a disaster. I mean, I would be kind of sad to see that. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, and then it's mentioned here that they look like they were cut down last week. And he said, exactly, because there's no life here. And he's like, but then why haven't they rotted? And I like the fact that Baez is aware that rot is a kind of life. Because if you're thinking about like this sort of time period, medically speaking, nobody had a clue. They kind of just thought that things were bad because they smelled bad. So the Baez knows this sort of in-depth sort of scientific knowledge about what rot is. That's quite interesting. That's a little look.
Yeah, well, you have to have a lot of knowledge of our world in order to control the other side. So
I just like to think there's a magi out there somewhere with his microscope looking at fucking bacteria under him.
Well, Juvens wrote all those books, right? Most of those books are just filled with random factual knowledge about the planet.
Okay.
That way they can temper the other side.
So Juvens just like understood everything.
I think to a certain degree, that he understood how the world worked, scientifically at least.
So it looks like Juvens was a magical Neil deGrasse Tyson.
There's a fan cast there if you ever have one.
I
say Baez. Have you heard of rut? You know, it's a kind of life.
Life, you say? Rot, is it?
Oh dear.
Sorry, Erisa, go ahead.
I was gonna say they come down this road, and all around is just dirt. There's no life whatsoever, no grass, nothing. And they come up to the city walls, and it's kind of crazy to think about the size of these walls here, because they say that they jut up into the sky, and yes, it's cloudy and stuff, but they can't see the top
That is scary. You can't see the top of
of a wall. I mean, for sure, there is a certain amount of like they say it's cloudy and shit. I definitely think, and there's mist. They're by a river and all that, but at the same time, even with that, it's still a fucking huge wall.
Mm-hmm.
And they, it's funny because Logan, they're about to enter the city, and Logan's like, "Are you sure about this?" And Baez is like, "Bitch, what? No, we came all this way for absolutely nothing. You're right. We should turn back. Am I sure about this?"
Yeah. And Logan's just like, I was just asking. Like, gets offended. Oh, all right, sorry.
They enter into the city, and they see everyone's awestruck by the scale of it. They just walked in, and they're all like, "Holy shit!" There are these massive buildings. And I love this line that Baez says here: "The palaces of the wealthy dead." I think that is such a good poetic line.
Very.
It's excellent, and the fact that Giselle is awed by the scale is saying something, because obviously Giselle lives in the most seemingly the most architecturally advanced nation or city in the world, which is Adua, and he is awed, which has some crazy things on it, but he is awed by the scale of just the entrance of the city, how big the towers are, how big the palaces are and buildings. Even if they're on a rich part of town, it's still insane to think about how big this place was.
Giselle seems as awed by this as Logan was of Adua.
Yes, which is bizarre.
It is pretty bizarre to think about.
Um,
And I do love this is kind of confirming that Alcus is essentially is basically just Rome.
Yeah,
because you've got like this hill with the temple.
Even more advanced than Rome, huh?
Yeah, just it's basically
They're going down this road, and Baez calls it the K-line way, and it goes all the way through the city from the southern to the northern part of the city. And the thing that he points out here is as well is the fact that the city is super big, super dangerous in terms of the architecture, and it's because it's so old. Even though there's no rot or anything, obviously the stones can fall down and break up, and there is water still running through the city. So he says to meet up outside the city, like you said, in an old temple, if they get separated. And we transition over to Pharaoh's point of view, who is, of course, as always, absolutely pissed off. The only thing worse than a city full of people is a city with no people.
No people at all.
It's always worse with Pharaoh. Every single time.
And I love how she's looking around. She's just like, she doesn't know what she's looking for, but she would be ready.
She kind of looks at everybody, and she notices that Luthar is all scared and quiet, just his eyes are forward and everything. She's just taking everything in. And then she hears a click clank.
Which is such a bizarre bit of onomatopoeia to use. Click clank.
That's when Pacey says it in the book.
Yeah, it does work really well in the book. In the audiobook even. But I love how Baez just kind of goes, it's nothing. Just the bells. It's right. Don't worry about it.
Well, from Baez's point of view, right, you know so many things. You understand how the world works, scientifically and people-wise for the most part. And you've been in the city before. I mean, this guy Baez spent a lot of time in the city. And so the thought of something else being here is preposterous. And he's always right. So why on earth would that be the case differently?
And I love how he immediately just goes into this big monologue about how the bells ring for the emperors, and there was like flower petals, and there was and everyone's just like, okay, you fucking weirdo.
Yeah,
Can we just move on?
I love this chapter and the next chapter for Baez's character. And this part too, yeah, it's kind of overblown, right? He's like, oh, look at this thing and that thing, and he's kind of doing that thing where he's making fun of how of situations, which just makes it exaggerated and stuff. But he also sounds, especially in the audiobook, you can hear it. He's very sad because it does sound really nice, you know? And he obviously spent a lot of time in the city, as I just said. So thinking about the times of old as an old man, he probably is getting nostalgic.
100%.
Yeah, because he grew up in Alcus, right?
It's not stated that he is, but he did go to the Imperial Senate for the first time when he was 20 years old.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
So anyways, they, I like how Logan's got her back here immediately until Baez, goes on this little rant and talks about how everything's fine. See, it's just a bell up there blowing in the wind. But Pharaoh is sure that she saw something up there. But it's Pharaoh. She's a paranoid bitch, so.
Well. Tone it down there. I mean, she is a bit of a, a bitch, but damn.
See, sometimes she's very perceptive of threats, and then other times she just, just runs away and runs straight into an eater. Right. So, we can't really trust her judgment that much, can we?
Yeah, she's true. She's
true,
all over the place, so. They kind of
Logan, on the other hand, does not fucking jump at shadows.
It's because he is the shadows. So we skip forward in time again, and they're going through the main road there, and they're seeing all these huge statues. And Giselle is like, "Hey, wait a minute! This reminds me of the Kingsway." And Baez is like, "Where do you think I got the idea?"
Yeah. Giselle was just absorbing that bizarre comment. I love that.
He's like, huh?
He's like, what?
What do you mean?
And then they stop all of a sudden because they look down and they realize that the river, Great Eos, is just ripping through Alcus, and it's created a huge chasm in the middle of the city, right through where the K-Line Way is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's where the river is. I think that's just like an earthquake, like a sinkhole or something, a giant sinkhole. I don't see anything.
It does seem like that. It does seem like a bit of both. Like
far down below, dark water moved, foaming and churning, washing out the tortured ground beneath the foundations of the city.
So if you have a crevasse, you could like expose like an underground river.
That's true. I see what you're saying. I got you.
That makes sense
because most rivers have like an underground and an above ground part to them.
Right. That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
Okay.
So.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Oh, it's fine, my Lord Chamberlain. It is your right to question me. So then they're like, okay, we're going to go. They're like, we're going to go around to the Canadius' bridge that he built for Juvens a long time ago. And they're like, wait, how's it still here? And Baez like, oh, Canadius built the last. It's pretty strong stuff. So they make their way around. We get another little transition in time, and there it was, just sitting there. And the bridge is made of metal, which they all seem like, wait, what the fuck? Made of metal?
Especially Longfoot, who's been all over the world seeing all these things, or so he claims. And he's like, how can a bridge be made out of metal? Which, today, you look at it, yeah. What else are you going to make a fucking bridge out of? But, And I like the fact that it's one single span. Like, it's just a perfect arch, and that's it. That's all you need.
It is the perfect bridge. And it's got all the wires and stuff underneath, so you can tell what kind of bridge it actually is. I don't know the name of it. I'm not a bridge expert, but I know what kind of bridge that is.
Like a suspension bridge?
Yeah. But not like the Golden Gate Bridge. It's like the opposite, where everything's below it, rather than above it.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So they start to cross, and Baez is talking about how, look, everything else, all of Juven's creations are nothing now. There are just ruins, and yet Canadius' work is just sitting in there, totally fine. And Kawhi even says, as if it was finished yesterday, which he hasn't said anything this whole chapter until that point. And Baez points out it's like perhaps the oldest thing in the city. So Canadius built this for Juvens way back in the day, like way back, probably about at this point 2,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago, somewhere in there.
It is, and we see like lots of examples of this of Canadius's works just never. They seem to be permanent. You feel like you have this feeling that after the planet's gone, they'll just be floating there in space.
At least to time and weather, they're immovable. They start to cross, and then Pharaoh's like, you know what? Fuck this bridge. Fuck this quest. Baez, I want to know what the fuck is the seed. And
I love this confrontation as well. He's just like, oh my god, come on. Let's just fucking leave. Like, nope. I like it on this side of the river. And if you want me to cross, then you got to tell me. And he's just like, right, okay. fine. And he just tells us, he does tell us straight up, he tells her exactly what it is. It's fucking magic made flesh.
It was, Kwai basically state that it's from the other side. And that it was found deep in the earth. It was left behind whenever Eus cast all the demons back to the other side. So, and they say that basically whenever they went into the city after the Imperial army beat Glustra out not beat Glustra, but Glustra blew everything up, or killed everything. They went to the city, found hundreds of thousands of bodies everywhere, and they had to bury them all. And then one group of soldiers found the seed, and they brought it to Juvens. And then the next day, that entire platoon and everybody they interacted with were dying, if not dead. And so they figured out, and Baez is very clever, and he brings this little story back around to why Pharaoh's important, which is that she has that devil blood. And Pharaoh's like, man, what? Well, who the fuck cares, right? Like, whatever. And he's like, and she's like, is it so? It's a weapon then? And he's like, he latches onto that, and he's like, yes, a weapon. That's right. And he's very smart here on how he manipulates. Pharaoh knows that he's manipulative, and she points that out all the time. But then she falls for shit like this. You know, it's very clear that he's manipulating her into being like, yeah, see, we're gonna go kill everybody. We're gonna kill the Gurkish, wipe them out entirely. And they're talking about just killing all of them, and she's on board because of that one revenge thing. And she kind of sets her mind back onto revenge, even though she just was talking about how, it was nice to have Logen beside her and stuff, and now she's back on. That's the one thing she had is revenge. Yeah, Logen drops back after they're talking, and he's like, "Hey, don't hardly matter whose blood you got, like man makes his own choices." My father used to tell me. I reckon that goes as much for women as well. And Pharaoh, was basically like, actually, what matters is my hatred. So, her oldest friend, she could trust nothing else. So after being like, oh, it was nice that she could. I found this interesting. The beginning of the chapter, Pharaoh was like, oh, I can trust Logen. It's nice to have him at my side. She ends with, after she's reminded of her revenge, her one goal, she kind of reverts back to, she ignores Logan's, kind of kind gesture, and then says she could trust nothing else. And in fact, she does something that she hasn't done for quite a few chapters. I like this too, is she took a look back over her shoulder, and she hisses, she jerks on her reins. She hisses at the city behind her. She hasn't hissed for the majority of the book, actually.
Yeah, that was very much the first book for kind of thing. It's only when they meet up with the main people.
But I like that he writes in that she does this after she kind of reverts back to revenge being her only motivation. And then Logen asked her if she saw something, and she said that there's something. But then Bias, of course, is like, there's nothing here.
Nothing can live here because there's no life, Pharaoh. Come on.
But her eyes played no tricks. Devil eyes or no, there was something out there in the city. She felt it, watching them.
And we end the chapter there. So what do you guys rate that chapter? George?
Well, I think I'm going to give that one a 7 out of 9 because I love the way that it makes you feel. Like, it makes you feel nostalgic the way that Baez does. Like, this place is so old and it's got so much, like, tragedy attached to it that you just get that proper feeling from it. It makes me feel really melancholic and sad. And, if any book can do that too.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I was going to give it a 7 out of 9 too. Just the exposition by Baez, the tension when Pharaoh either hears the clink clank or sees something move, and we don't really get an accurate description of what it is. This is a very good chapter. It's, exploring Orcus and exploring what happened to it and what might be going on in Orcus right meow.
I would rate this chapter one up you guys just slightly, or knuckle you up slightly.
Oh,
I'm gonna give it a.
You'll what?
I'll fucking knuckle the shit out of you.
Knuckle where? You want to shove a knuckle in my what?
Knuckle what? Up where?
My ass, you said.
Gay? Why didn't you just say so?
Fuck.
7.5, because the same reason you guys said. I really like this, but I just really enjoyed this kind of exposition and how they perceive it. There's a lot of character stuff, especially on a second read through. Between all these characters, there's a lot of. I like how Pharaoh has like this little arc. I like how we get the scale of things passively through Giselle's eyes. I like how through Brother Longfoot's perception of things. There's some little Kwai stuff in here as well for later. That's nice. And Baez, even though we kind of get the sense of kind of who he is, this is such a nice touch to his character. It adds a lot of there's a lot of dynamic range added in the next chapter as well. But this one in particular, because he's all, like you said, he's kind of sad. He's worn down. Being here has actually worn him down, I feel, mentally more than the entire journey has. Because there's so many happy memories he has here, obviously, and it's all nothing. They're all gone.
Very true. Good job. I like that, Harrison. Very nice. Let's move on to our character spot,
which we're going to backtrack a little bit here.
Because we had to mention a certain prince in the last episode, and because that was the last time he ever appears, right? I'm not lagging here, am I?
Okay, all right. Due to some technical difficulties with George's internet, he's now had to switch over to his phone, so that explains the change in voice quality, audio quality. But we'll move on to our character spot. Harrison, do you want to take this away?
So the last episode we had to do Prince Ladislaw. It was his last chapter he was in, and we couldn't just not do him. But there were some other characters that we didn't get to cover as well. So even though these next few chapters we're only going to be with the gang in the West, so we'll go ahead and backtrack for once here and bring out Visbrook, General Visbrook in Dagaska, and point out kind of his character and why he is. He started off the Dagaska set piece as a armchair general, kind of a weakling, who just did his job, and at the end he goes out, I would say honorably, even though he gets basically told like, yeah, you're screwed. you don't get to evacuate out, even though that's what he tried to do earlier. Galactic gets to leave, and instead of like, you bastard, he's just like, okay, well, to an honorable death then.
And he does do that. He goes through this very rapid character arc from, like you say, like an armchair general. He's a bit fat. He's a bit lazy. Doesn't really know what's going on. Doesn't even have the right priorities when it comes to his defense or anything like that. To this sort of like more stoic character. He's going to just, he's probably going to end his own life so that he doesn't get captured. But he was there till the end,
Jeffrey?
Yeah, Visbrook. I mean, when we first met him, we got the sense that he was, I guess you could say, an incompetent coward. I got this, that's what we got, right? And then he's near the end, even though he did not show any redeeming qualities before they're hanged, for the most part, except for his disdain of Casca, which how could he? How dare he? At the end, the man took his order like a champ. He's like, all right, I guess I'll stay behind and deal with these Gurkish people when they come knocking on the door. Like, all right. And he went out like a man, better than I probably would have done. This fictional character. So
that's just kind of a tough situation for this guy, and I kind of respect that he became better for it by the end.
Yeah. Rip Visbrook. Don't rip Ladislaw. Fuck Ladislaw.
Yeah, fuck Ladislaw. Or don't fuck him.
That's how this all started.
Damn it! I'm confused.
General Visbrook, you're my man. Harrison. Harrison, you got to do it.
General Visbrook, you're my man.
Capital. Maybe we should start doing that for the character slot. At the end of it, we always have Harrison say, "You're my man." Don't even change it for even feel like it's a woman. Just like because look,
You're my
Ladislav's such an idiot. No. Why does it have to be?
I'm playing character in Ladislaw, right? You're my whore.
You can't
Right?
do that.
Because it's from Ladislaw's point of view. I'm just staying in
No,
character.
no,
You can't do that.
no. If you're gonna stay in character, you got to be like you're my man, even if you're talking about a woman. You get
I
it?
got you. I'm just being funny.
All right, George. Yeah, I'm assuming you're editing this episode. You got to take that whole bit out from Harrison, or else
He
we're-
won't. You never do, Jeffrey. Why would he?
No. No, George, take that shit
I'll
out.
try.
Man. Jesus Christ. They're gonna string Harrison up. All right. How do we even end this? All right. Thank you for the character spot, guys. All right. Let's move on to our second chapter read through, which is luck. Who wants to take this over?
Harrison.
We start off with Logan's point of view. He's telling not Logan. Logan is telling Giselle to get up, and he's like, hey, we let you sleep in a little bit, that's good. And Giselle goes to stand up, and he's able to actually walk a little with some difficulty on his own, which he is quite proud of. And Logan seems to be happy for him as well. Logan even says, as he's watching him, take some steps, he says this very totally never used again line, "How's the leg?" Which obviously it's complete unrelation to the later part.
I didn't notice that.
Did not notice that either. Holy shit, that's funny as fuck.
In this particular case, I think it's completely unrelated, but can't help but point it out. It'll become iconic later.
A very common first law catchphrase. How's the leg? I love how when Logan chucks him a biscuit and he goes in the dust, like old Giselle would be like, "Oh no, I can't eat that now. It's been in the dust," but he just goes, "Nah, it's all right," and just dusts it off. What a nice little moment there from Giselle.
Yeah, it's kind of like the culmination of, you're not sure if he's actually going to be if he's actually a better person, but he really seems changed here. He's recovered now, not completely, but for the most part. And
he's on his way there.
Yeah, he's on his way there. You actually see him becoming a better person, not just saying he is. And then Logan's like, "Hey, nice job. I'm glad that you're feeling better." And he says, what he says is, "From now on, I will be grateful from every moment that I can walk." And Logan is like, "Okay, yeah. That feeling always happens. You always feel that way after a wound." And Giselle says, "I will not."
Yeah.
Which is, I really like that. He's like, "No, I'm fucking serious, Logan. I'm taking this seriously."
Yeah. But he's right, though. He is right. He is going to go back to moaning about the food again.
He does. But he was specifically talking about walking.
Yeah.
But still, he does say, he's like, "All right, a week. I'll give it a week then. But come over here and look at this." And they go over, and Longfoot's already there. And Longfoot actually really loved this monologue from Longfoot here. He's talked about how this is why he loves to travel, is to look at the views, basically. And out of all the cities, it's not as good as El Nob. It's not as good as Austria. It's not as good as, what's the other one he said here? He said another one.
Talents?
Yeah. He says all these, cities with these great views, and he says that none of them compare to Alcus and in the dawn, after all the rain is sitting on the rooftops and everything, which is it's just kind of a nice thing. He says it nice. And then he says,
and then Pharaoh shits on him.
Load of old buildings.
Yeah, he even says, "Who could not be struck with an awe at the," and then Pharaoh cuts him off saying, "A load of old buildings." And she's like, "Come on, let's go, whatever, let's get moving."
Yeah.
But I love this sentiment from Giselle. It's one of the few sentiments that we get from him that are actually very thought driven. At least one of the first ones. And he says basically like, he's looking at the city. Yeah, it's pretty and all, but like the issue is that it reminds him of Adua, and to think about Adua being like this, completely abandoned and ruined, is like heartbreaking to him. He says he would not be dreaming of Alkas, maybe nightmares, maybe, which is really a nice little story beat from Giselle in this moment.
Oh, definitely.
Then they are moving around in the city, and they are coming to another area with a ton of statues. And these ones are all like disfigured. They have been purposely mutilated, and not just with time, but with like different materials.
These were the first Vandals.
The first Vandals, yeah.
The first Vandals. Glustrad was like, before he blew everything up, he had a angsty teenage phase.
Yeah, he's going around defacing all the statues.
Yeah, all of the Juven statues he wanted to be ruined. So,
yeah, my brother Juven sucks cock.
This is like Juven City, right? I can't imagine. It's kind of interesting. Juven's face, despite everything that he did to try to, he made all the statues and stuff. We don't know how he was as a person, really. But it would appear that probably all of his statues, all his likenesses is gone. Again, everything he built for has completely been decimated. So,
wow, this is such a fucking exciting episode, isn't it? Everything's dead, everything's dying, everything you know and love will die.
Okay, think about the finite nature of my life. Thanks, George.
Giselle's actually like having conversation with Bias here, though. Kind of. He's like, "Oh, not a happy family." Then he's actually talking about it. He's not just not listening at all, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
and he asks him what. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go on.
And he's asking him like, what are the symbols that have been chiseled in the statues? Like, what do they mean? It's like you don't want to know. You really just don't want to know. I can imagine it is actually that. Like, Bias makes it sound like it's like some curse that will like damn you to hell or something. Curse. But it's just like Juven sucks dick or something stupid.
Juven's. He's so petty and so stupid. He's like Juven's is gay on one of them. He's like, what the fuck, dude?
Juven's is a loser.
It really does fit in with Glustrad being this sort of horrible, jealous, like petty man.
However, I'm not so convinced that Glustrad. I mean, Glustrad's definitely petty, obviously, hence the statues. But I'm not so convinced he was completely unjustified. But
right, completely unjustified in leveling an entire city and thousands of people.
Just because his daddy didn't treat him as better as his brothers.
No. Listen.
Here we go with Harrison's fucking point.
Still advocate, right? We say that. We say, yeah, he decimated an entire city, did terrible things. No doubt. I'm not saying he's a good person. But did he come from a place of honest hurt because his brothers just didn't give a shit about him? His brothers, Canadius was an a-hole. Everybody says it. He just did his own thing. He did what he wanted to who he wanted. He created a whole slave race of sentient creatures and had them do his bidding. He Juvens had the empire. Oh, did this wonderful things, but guess what? They had slaves and shit. They did terrible things. They conquered people. Khalul is a terrible motherfucker as well. No doubt, Glustrad is bad, but I don't think he's perhaps as bad as they say he is in terms of his personality.
Right. Let's talk about the redeeming qualities of a genocidal maniac. Let's continue.
I mean, most of these characters. Okay. There are plenty of characters in the story who are homicidal maniacs, and we give
homicidal,
and we give them plenty of redeeming qualities.
You are very correct. I'm just talking about there's a difference between homicide and genocide.
I would say some characters fall into both.
And I wouldn't say
it's just a matter of
what Glustrad was doing.
Scale.
No, it's not. A genocide is very specific against a certain group.
That's true.
It's not like Glustrad was like, I'm going to wipe out.
Right.
You know, I don't know. I was going to say something really bad there, but I'm not going to. That's got to get cut out as well. Fuck me.
Glushard said, "I'm gonna wipe out everyone with the toga." Glushard said, "You toga motherfuckers."
Exactly. It's not like Glystrod said, like starting a race war or anything like that. He killed a lot of people, but it was pretty clear that he didn't intend to.
I don't know. Maybe one day he was like, "Today, for those toga motherfuckers, it's the final solution."
It seems to me that there was a very hurt brother who was ignored by his family and told to fuck off. So he went and decided to find his own way. And he found somebody who actually listened to him. Somebody who heard his needs and desires to be wanted and cared for, and to have a family and to be powerful. And they gave him that. And he did what they requested because he enjoyed having somebody who finally understood him, somebody who finally listened to him. And their final request was to bring them into the real world. And why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he do that? Because they could actually be with him permanently. Plus, he can control them. They'd be as whole. And it'd be revenge against his family. But more importantly, he'd actually have his own family. And it's terrible what he did. But I think it's from an understanding place compared to with everybody else, knowing how Joe writes. I guarantee you that's exactly how it went. Or something close to that.
I can see that, yeah.
I like this. You know what this reminds me of? You guys watch Succession?
I haven't,
No. Okay, Glushard is a demonic Kendall. That's all I can say. If anyone that watches Succession understands, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's right. Go watch Succession on HBO Max. Make it a plug.
A little plug there.
I don't even know what Succession is or where you can watch it. But anyways, so Logan is a bit more on edge, probably because of how Pharaoh is, because he trusts Pharaoh. So he trusts that she saw something and there's something out there. And they start coming up to a huge building. It's like a big dome. It's kind of like the Lord's Round, but as he says in a minute, it's even bigger. And Baez is like, "Oh, let's go inside and take a look around." And Pharaoh and Squire are like, "Now we're good." And everybody else is like, "Yeah, let's go in there and take a look at it. It'll be awesome." Yeah. So they go inside of this huge round building. And it's like a great bowl, they say. And Baez is just having a full-on...
he's having a moment, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's having a moment.
And he's
talking
about how in this exact precise spot, he's like standing in it, like picturing it all. I can remember Calica stood to address the Senate, urging caution in the Empire's eastern expansion. It was down there that Juven's replied to him, 20 years old. That's how old he was. And he was so excited, and he said something here, and he's talking about everything. He kind of ignores Logan's little, like, a blade in your ear, so it hurt more than a word.
Yeah.
And he goes on, and he looks around at the broken room and is like, "This is an age of little men doing what they must, and little men with little dreams walking in their giant footsteps. Still, you can see it was once a grand building." At that particular line coming out of Baez's mouth in this moment, and his kind of nostalgic view at the moment, is so interesting because I feel he's talking about himself.
Definitely.
And it brings so much depth to his character.
And that's exactly what I think as well. Like, you see so much of this in Baez that he's always trying to achieve what he can't achieve, what his betters could. And he's always trying to work towards that. That's literally what drives him.
Yeah. And even in here, he acknowledges that Juven's and these men, and that his replica, as he basically just stated before, his replica of the Union is pathetic compared to what he grew up in. And some of that may be old man nostalgia kind of feelings, but some of that is true. And that's where the weird, interesting character conflict of him comes in, where he simultaneously, is like, "Oh, Juven's is, my master and stuff," but he is sad by things that have happened in the past, as he kind of pointed out previously. He doesn't just regret his actions. He believes truly that he cannot achieve what everyone else has achieved, like what Juven's achieved. and that is it's just that particular aspect of him becomes more and more interesting the more and more you read the book series.
Definitely.
Master architect,
And I love how this lovely little reverie is just immediately broken up when Giselle walks slightly away from the group and it's just like,
oh yeah,
do you smell that?
what's that smell?
And Logan's immediately
Smells
like, I know that
shit.
fucking smell.
Fucking flatheads!
Yeah.
Giselle turns around and he's like, wait, is that a beggar? And sees that instead it is indeed a Shenka, a flathead. And he was completely wrong, and he's like, oh shit. And Logan's like, grab the bitch! Grab him!
Kill it!
And Giselle cannot get up there fast enough because of his leg, and the thing scurries away into a hole. And they're like, oh fuck. And Bias is like, oh, what? This isn't possible.
Yeah, this shouldn't be happening. This is not part of my plan.
Logan's like, how the hell are they here? Like, what the fuck? And Bias is like, well, whenever we, the Magi, fought against Canadius, we drove the Shenka into the dark places of the world. And we've kind of mentioned it before, but Alcus is definitely, as Logan says, a dark fucking place.
And then they're running back to the horses, right? And I like this part where Pharaoh's like, what's going on? And then he's like, Logan's like, flatheads! And she's just like, huh?
What?
And he's just like, just fucking get out, go.
And
go.
I love how she was the one that was like on the lookout in the last chapter, and she's the last person to find out here. They all come running out of the building and just then, like, what the fuck?
And so they all hop on their horses, right? And they ride. And here we get a nice action sequence.
So they start running away on their horses and in the cart. And Pharaoh had mentioned earlier on, we forgot to mention it as well, how she talked about how luck is like what idiots use to as an excuse for their actions, to get rid of responsibility. Like, oh, bad luck, this thing happened. So it's I love this chapter. I didn't even really notice that until this read through, but as they're running through, Giselle says bad luck, and then that's whenever Pharaoh mentions how, like, oh, it's not bad luck, it's just people being stupid. And,
yeah, definitely.
Which is an interesting philosophy to have, that there is no luck. It's only your decisions and consequences. But they're just arrows are flying down, and we switch over to Logan's point of view, and he thought he had left, the Shenka behind, and he's all dramatic about it too. He's like, God, enemies are always at your feet. It's like, dude, why are you talking like that? As they're raining, he's running through. He's just telling himself, still alive. And they see a temple as they're moving up towards it, and they think they can go right through the temple. So the cart like goes straight through the two columns, and then they all run inside. But Logan gets, quote unquote, as he says, unlucky. He gets lucky that a spear comes out of the air, doesn't hit him, it hits his horse, and unlucky that it hit his horse. And then he rolls on the ground, bounces off, and he finally stops. And then as he kind of starts leaning up, he can see Pharaoh. Like, it's interesting because I don't think Pharaoh lost her horse. I think she jumped off to protect Logan. It's not said, but I feel like
not clear, is it?
No, it's not clear, but I do feel like that's what's happened because just the way it is. But she's off shooting at the Shenka, and Logan gets up and they start getting ready to move, and Giselle is getting off his saddle as well to help get them on the move.
It's a nice bit of teamwork, isn't it? I like seeing it's especially these three in this part, but these three working together as a team, getting each other out of scraps. It's nice to see. Doesn't last long, but it's nice to see.
It's perfect. It's perfect in this little moment too to show how each of them are. Logan, who is the best fighter, is not trying to fight, and unfortunately gets stuck in a bad situation. So Pharaoh stops to help him and is actually protecting him. Giselle, at the kindness of his heart, also stops in order to help, but he's really not contributing anything.
Yeah.
Right, and then Baez, he does his his voodoo, and he I guess he destroys like the roof, the pillars fall over, right? You guys were saying so, like it created an even bigger chasm.
Yeah,
so bias just makes everything worse.
He stops the basically he if I don't know if he kills all the Shenka or he stops the Shenka from being able to get near them. But in doing so, he created like a bigger hole in the ground, and when that was happening, like the roof, those stones were falling. Logan turns and drags Pharaoh with him to like duck, like to evade some falling rocks. And I guess when he opens his eyes, he's like, "Oh, big hole!"
Yeah.
And this piece of rock that he's on is moving. It's at an angle. It's teetering on the edge of a cliff.
It's like a very Indiana Jones kind of situation.
And and Pharaoh is holding his hand, and Logan's holding her hand, right? Well, actually, no, Logan's not holding her. Pharaoh's holding him, and the slab of rock is unstable, and he's like, "Fuck!" And then Giselle is like, "Uh-oh, what do I do?" And Pharaoh's kind of like looking at the situation, like, "Oh no, I guess like you have to be realistic, Pink." She, told that she gave Logan a taste of his own medicine, and she lets go, but Logan doesn't let go. He's like, "Nope," because he remembers when she helped him when he was about to fall from a building in Agile when they were running for the practicals in the last book. And then in that nice, kind gesture, in response to that, Pharaoh was like, "Stupid fucking Pink."
She's just ready to let go, and fucking Logan grabs her. She's so angry at him.
Yeah, and then Giselle gets up. He's like, "Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck," and then he's like, he goes to like try to rescue them, right, Harrison?
Yes, he does. He does his best. He runs over there and he's like, what the fuck do I do? And Logan and Pharaoh are like, just fucking do something.
He's like, "Don't fucking push it."
He tries to step on himself to balance it out, which isn't a bad idea. And they're like, don't do that. So he's like, he takes off his jacket, knots it up, and Logan's like, oh yeah, let's try that. He throws it out there to him. Logan's able to get it on like the second drive, and then Giselle starts pulling as hard as he can to try to pull them over, and Pharaoh gets like up onto the stone as well, and they're about to maybe get up and jump off, but then the sleeve starts ripping. The everything starts falling apart on his jacket.
Yeah, very
it's like,
slowly.
Curse that fucking coat salesman.
Which I love here too, because there's a little bit of symbolism with Giselle taking the coat off his back to help other people when he would not.
That's definitely a great metaphor, and I love it is quite a cliche thing, isn't it? Like the threads coming apart one by one, and then just watching it happen, and it's like, oh, what are we gonna do?
But at the same time, like, what the hell else are they gonna do?
No, exactly, but that's the point. You expect something to happen. There's going to be like a Deus Ex Machina, and like Baez is going to come and do some fucking, and as Jeff put it, some voodoo, and he's going to save them, and everything's going to be okay. But it doesn't. And then I love that. Nope, I love it's just that's not how it happened in the stories.
Yeah, he pulls, right? He has his sleeve in his hand, but not the rest of the coat. And the slab is just like, meow, and Logan and Pharaoh go bye-bye. And he's like, oh, that's not how it happens in the stories. I was supposed to be a hero.
Yeah. Which is where we see Giselle he's such an interesting character, because it's what we see as start of another trait, where he is want to be a good person now, but he still wants to be important. He still wants to be a hero. Which is interesting.
And this is sort of a hit to that as well, that he can't. There are things that you can't help.
Yeah.
And you can't do.
And we did forget to mention how Giselle earlier, I believe in the last chapter maybe, how he thought about how he'd like to settle down with Artie. Like that sounds more pleasant. Like fuck his family, fuck the code, fuck being a nobleman. He'd rather be with Artie and live a normal life. But he's not really ready for that, as we can see here.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. And that's how the chapter ends, with Giselle in disbelief holding a torn sleeve. What would you guys rate that chapter?
Yeah, right.
Harrison?
I'll give it an 8 out of 9 fingers. Gotta love the action. We have more exposition. Baez, talking about how grand things were back in my day, and then and then it just the tension is finally cut and it shifts hard into an action sequence. I give it an 8 out of 9. It's not, it's just always fun. And then Giselle trying his best to be the hero and failing spectacularly. Yes.
I'm going to have to agree with you, Jeff. I'm going to give it a little bit higher. I'm going to give it an 8 and a knuckle. Because I absolutely love that, like you say, the action scenes in this. It's so chaotic. You have no idea what's going on. Everything that happens is like half a line, and then it's moved on, and then we're moving on, and then we're moving on, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah, 8 and a knuckle.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with a 8 and a knuckle as well, actually, because I just really enjoy this. I absolutely love the Baez character work in this scene that he's in. It's so well done. It's not just in your face. A lot of it's even better through the context of the audiobook because you can hear the tone.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Pacey does a brilliant job in bringing these characters to life, and Baez is one of those, especially, that gets that treatment,
Yeah, absolutely, and that really definitely makes it really high score. I don't think it's I don't think it's a 9 out of 9, but I definitely think it's up there. It's one of the best ones, I think.
Let's move on to our community interaction segment. Harrison?
Yes. Oh. Hold.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to get to my page. So, community interaction segment this time is favorite Logen quote, which there are quite a few. And yes, everybody, please don't put me on a crucifix because I didn't put "you can never have too many knives" instead of "the seeds of the past bear fruit in the future," which that is one of his quotes. Anyways, point being is I asked everybody to see what everyone's favorite Logen quote was, and this was actually our biggest poll ever because people love Logen. So 52 upvotes and 106,000 votes, which is crazy. It's a lot of votes.
Do you mean 1,600?
106. No, yeah, you're right. 1,600.
116,000.
More than the entire subreddit. 1.6k votes.
Which is still great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Sorry.
The biggest numbers that we've had. I thought You Have to Be Realistic was going to win just out of pure...
That's what I would have given it to. Everybody knows you have to be realistic.
Yeah, it's so iconic inside the first law. Like, you could call it You Have to Be Realistic subreddit instead of the first law, and everyone would know it's for the first law,
Yeah.
But ironically enough, it's better to do it than live with the fear of it. One, by all the other votes almost combined.
There's lots of people up in the comments saying this is something that they say to themselves like as a mantra, which is great. That's wonderful. If these books have gotten that deep into you that kind of motivates you, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that is such a good thing for anxiety or situations that, I use it. I found myself saying, say one thing for so-and-so, say they're blank. I actually found myself saying that quite a bit. Doing better next time, that's what life is a really nice quote as well. He says that, and that's the truth. You have to be realistic is more helpful than you think. And Still Alive is just iconic for the book.
Yeah.
And for the one that I didn't put up on there, You Can Never Have Too Many Knives. Well, that one is fun for the book as well. But everybody just different things. Even though I said please don't roast me for not having you can the ends of your fucking legs on it.
The end of your fucking legs.
Somebody said gone, but I am here. Fucking good. Only one person said one time, maybe if somebody eventually post a poll where they actually have all of the right things on there. I'm like, oh, okay. I just asked you not to say anything about that because there's only 6 choices.
Yeah.
But what is your favorite? And he never responded. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Anyways, good time overall. Thank you for everybody who participated. I did not expect it's better to do it and live with the fear of it. But I actually am happy that it won. So
that's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you all know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next time as we cover Beneath the Ruins, No Good for Each Other, and The Hero's Welcome.
And make sure you follow us on social media. We have on Instagram, we're on Reddit, and we're on Twitter. And we do post occasionally, but you want to see stuff on our website, it's circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any podcast app that you use. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast as it helps to spread our reach. Thank you all again for listening.
This is the age of little men doing what they must.